Alrighty, today your essential question for today's unit is, how does location change the study of geography? We're going to be answering a couple of things, but that's what we're going to be focusing in on is essentially the location and how that factor affects geography. First, we've got the introduction to geography. That's what we're covering today. There's actually a couple of parts. There'll be another part that'll be posted, but we're looking at the introduction. We're faced with the question of what is geography. Geography is the study of Earth's surface, including landforms, bodies of water. Notice I put H2O, just a little abbreviation, mainly because I ran out of room on my board. But bodies of water could be part of geography. Also looking at the climate, plants, animals, and don't forget the people. Okay? There's a lot of things that essentially fall into geography, and these are just touching on some of them. Geography literally means earth description or earth writing when you take those root words apart. When you take geo and you take ography, okay, you get earth writing. And so it does focus a lot on the earth, but we can't forget the people. Okay? We're going to look a lot at people in this class. You notice there's a name of a pretty cool guy. His name is Eratosthenes. You're probably thinking, I got to write that down, put that in my baby book because I want to name my kid that. I do too. Not really. My wife would kill me. But Eratosthenes is known as the father of geography. Hence, I am your father. With my picture, if you Googled Eratosthenes, this is exactly what he would look like. But it's important that you know that he's the father of geography. Thousands of years ago, he started looking at the world. Obviously, he wasn't using satellite images like we are now, but he's the guy that first put this subject together. So you can thank him that you're studying in geography class. All right. Now, the first part that we're going to look at in regards to location and geography is relative location. You take the word relative and you're thinking relation. Okay, and that just falls right into the definition. Relative location means location in relation to other places. If I told you to give me directions to your favorite restaurant, this is probably what you would give me. You'd say, go straight. When you pass the railroad tracks, go right. When you see Allsup's, turn left. If you go by the house with the blue butterflies on the side, you've gone too far. Okay, that's location in relation to places. That's relative location. Again, this is the directions that most people give, but it is an important aspect of location and of geography. You see some of my quotes here. One of my favorite comedians said, next to the left. That's talking a little bit about relative location. And here's here's a map that gives you perfect dimensions and perfect scale of, here's the school, here's this cool dot, and here's a tree. Basically what I'm saying is, if you're using relation to places to get somewhere. So if this was the point I'm going and I'm at the school right now, I would say you need to head south down this road. When you see the tree, turn left, you'll go to the dot. Good enough. The next type of location is absolute location. This is the one that more particularly affects geographers and geography and in our study. This is the exact position on Earth's surface. And when I mean exact, I mean the pinpoint latitude, longitude, location. Okay? When you see absolute, I want you to think exact. All right? When you give me absolute location, you're giving me latitude, longitude, like 38 minutes, 36 seconds north, 24 minutes, 34 seconds east. Okay? And we'll talk about that later. Now, to get absolute location, you've got to know these key terms. The first key term is hemisphere and hemispheres. On Earth's surface, it can be divided into two different hemispheres, two different ways. The first way is, if you took a longitude line, I've already messed up, a longitude line and went up and down, the eastern side of that line, that sphere, would be the eastern hemisphere. The western sphere, or the western side of that longitude line, would be the western hemisphere. Okay? On a map, you've got the eastern hemisphere and the western hemisphere, and that helps differentiate between places. Okay? On the flip side of that, you've also got northern hemisphere and southern hemisphere. And this is the one where you take a latitude line, and north of that latitude line, everything in there is the northern hemisphere. And everything south of that line is the southern hemisphere. Okay? That line is called the equator. North and south of that equator. North of that equator is the northern hemisphere. South of that equator is the southern hemisphere. Amazing. Revolutionary, but you got to know it. Okay? The next two terms, they're the same color. They go along with each other. They're very, very similar. Okay? Latitude lines run laterally, which means sideways. Okay? That's why I underlined lat. Not like the lat in your arm, but lateral. Okay? They run laterally. Longitude lines, or longitudinal lines, run lengthways. They go north and south. Okay? I'm saying this slow for a reason. All right? Because latitude lines run east and west, just like this hemisphere here, they measure north and south. Okay, now that may sound confusing, but think of it this way. When you got a bunch of lines together, the only thing you can measure is the space between those lines. So the latitude lines are these lines that are going laterally. All right, they're going sideways, east and west. The way that you can get distance in here is you measure what's north and south of those lines. So the further you are north of this line, that's another latitude line. All right? Same thing with longitude, just flip it. Longitude lines are long, straight up and down. Okay? Because they're running up and down, north and south, they have to measure what's east and west. They have to measure what's in between these spaces. Okay? Important concepts that you make sure you get down, because we're going to be using latitude and longitude all throughout the year. All right? That moves us to the grid system. What the grid system is when you put all the latitude lines up and when you put all the longitudinal lines up, it looks like a grid. Okay? These lines running laterally are latitude lines. These lines running longitudinal are longitude lines. Okay? They're north and south. Now, when you see direction, for example, if you saw 34 degrees north, that is going to be a latitude line. Because again, latitude lines measure north and south. If you saw 34 degrees east, that is a longitudinal line. You're measuring in the distance in between. Okay? An important concept that you make sure we get down, because when you put this whole grid system together, you're able to determine absolute location. All right? So if this dot was here, okay, if my grid was numbered this way, yep, that'll mess you up. Let's go north, south, 2, and we'll go 1. And these are my east lines. If your dot is here and this line goes to the 2 degrees north, this dot would be 2 degrees north, 4 degrees east. My latitude line is the 2 degrees north. My longitude line is the 4 degrees east. We'll go over this a lot in class, but just understand which one runs which way, which one measures the other way. So if you see a direction by latitude like north or south, you know what that's talking about. If you see a direction by longitude like north or west, east or west, I don't even know my own directions. That's what that means. Okay? An important concept. Now, to a lighter subject of maps. Believe it or not, there's maps in geography. Okay? Right now I'm just going to tell you about 3 different types of maps. Political maps. Political maps are places that have set borders, like a country. Could also be a map of a city, has a set border. Okay? It shows you maybe roads, maybe where cities are. That's a political map. A physical map. Physical features. It can show you mountains, it can show you rivers, it can show you elevation. Okay? It can show you different things that the physical landscape can show. Physical map. Political map. And then there are what's called special purpose maps. Basically, if it's not a physical, not a political, we're going to put it into the special purpose map. What that means is, for example, like a population density map. This type of map will show you where most people live. It's not a political map, it's not a physical map, it's showing you different types of data. It's a special map. Okay? Pretty easy concept that I think we can get. Moving right along, I got to go fast. Cartography. Cartography is the art of map making. Why do we use maps? Why do geographers use maps? The reason they use maps is because it's easier to explain this information on maps. And we'll get to different examples, but like that population density map, it's easier to show you where people live by a map than just writing it all out. And then the last slide shows you a lot of stuff about geographic information systems, also known as GIS. Basically what a GIS is it takes a bunch of different maps, combines them down to one map. All right? Takes maybe satellite images, maybe political maps, physical maps, maybe showing you the atmosphere and the clouds, brings it down to one map and combines it together. This is the full definition in complete words, but I'm out of time.